Hello Hanji Kidda, what's up people? Back with another video, and today we're previewing Tottenham Hotspur versus Ipswich Town. Before we get into anything, you know we got to do the shout outs. Massive shout outs to Angel Care Homes for all your care needs in the Black Country and Birmingham area. Massive shout outs to Mark Darcy for all your formal menswear needs. And of course the Desi Ballers, highlighting all South Asians at all levels in the beautiful game. I'll put their details in the description, so make sure you check them out. And if you're brand new here, or if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and turn the notifications on. If you want to support the channel and help us grow as well, you can by using the Ko-Fi link. That's in the description as well. But let's get to it then. So it's a first visit for us to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think that's what it's called. Obviously, the last time we played them was back in 2002 when they were playing at White Hart Lane. Well, actually, the last time we played them at White Hart Lane was technically in 2001. And over the years, we played them a few times. During that time, there's been 8 draws. We've won 21 games and they've won 24 games. So they've edged it in terms of their head-to-head. But over the last 5 games, we've edged it with 3 wins to 2. When I think about Tottenham and I think about the connection, you know, in terms of locality, it's a pretty local club. Well, not local for me, but it's a pretty local club. So you'd expect to see kind of players that have maybe played at Spurs Academy and gone on to Ipswich, or vice versa. You know, players like Kane Vincent-Young, who was in the Spurs Academy once upon a time, ended up then obviously coached eventually to Ipswich. Players like Janoy Donasian, who was in the youth team there before he went to Villa's Academy and then obviously ended up at Ipswich as well. But then we've had some good players between the two clubs. You know, for me personally, I remember players like, you know, Jason Dazelle. You know, he went obviously to Tottenham from Ipswich. We obviously had Mauricio Torrico as well. You know, he was a player certainly when I started following Town. You know, he's one of my favourite players growing up. Another one of my favourite players, Darren Bent. You know, obviously not directly from Ipswich, but ended up going there. It was actually, I read somewhere before, well, I watched it, I think it was on one of these interviews. And he was actually, and he is still an Arsenal fan, and he would end up going to watch Arsenal games because he had a season ticket. And he would go there like kind of in a bit of a disguise or whatever whilst he's playing for Tottenham. So that was a bit of a mad one, but, you know, he seemed to do a job for Spurs or whatever when he played there. And of course, obviously, people like Jamie Clapham. You know, then we've had players like Gio Dos Santos and, you know, obviously Massimo Luongo, who turned out to be an absolute gem for us. So there's been some real quality players between the two clubs over the years. So the last time we played Spurs, it was that relegation season, but we did do the double over them that season. If I remember correctly, the first game was away at White Hart Lane, and that was, I'm pretty sure it was the game before Christmas. If not, it was around Christmas. It might have been, it wasn't before, yeah, it was before, it wasn't Boxing Day. And we won that 2-1. Finidi George and Alan Armstrong on the score sheet for Town that day. But do you know which Tottenham player got sent off? Put it in the comments below. And in the reverse fixture at Portman Road, set piece magic. So Marcus Bent puts us ahead from a corner, good powerful header. If I remember correctly, it was unmarked and it was quite a distance out. It wasn't like 6 yards out. It was a good like 12 yards out or whatever by the penalty spot. But powerful header. Poyet, he then equalises. I think keeper got beaten at the near post. So that was, I think, a bit disappointing there. And he should have been sent off, to be honest, Poyet, but that's another conversation for another day. You know, he clearly whacked the man. And then a late set piece as well, corner, and McGreal just powers over everyone and into the back of the net in front of that north stand. And that was 2-1. That was also, I believe, the first time that Torrico had started against Ipswich. Not the first time he played, because if we remember, the season before, so our first season back in the Prem, we played Tottenham, we lost 3-1, and I'm pretty sure he came on like 80th, maybe 89th minute, 90th minute. He came on as a late sub for Spurs that day. But this was the first time he started against Town. But yeah, then we went on to win 4 on the spin, so we had a bit of momentum. We got out of the relegation zone. We were kind of almost mid-table at that point before we got smashed for 6 at home to Liverpool. So you never know. Whatever happens here with the Spurs on Saturday could be a good omen and could kind of be a springboard. Certainly, if history is going to repeat itself, could be a springboard to kind of push us up the table. So in terms of the season so far, obviously for Town, we're desperate for that win. Actually, I don't want to say desperate, but we do need that win. Besides the West Ham and Everton game, I think there's been positives in all the game. We've looked really, really good. We've just been either sloppy mistakes or, just unfortunate. Leicester last week, it's VAR. Brentford week before, it's a combination of VAR and sloppy mistake. But the team is improving, and there were some really, really good signs against Leicester and Brentford. So, the last 2 games have been certainly, we look to have turned a corner, but we do need that win. Spurs, on the other hand, they've had a good start. Their last 5 games has had 3 wins and 2 losses. Obviously, last week they come from behind. They were 1-0 down. Some of my Villa friends that were at the game, they said, Villa were all over them first half, but second half Spurs looked a complete different team. And they switched it on. And I read an interesting stat actually. Actually, I just need to double check the number. Is it correct? Yeah. So in the last 2 seasons, apart from Man City, no other team has accumulated more points from a losing position. So Man City, over the last 2 seasons, have accumulated 37 points, and Spurs have accumulated 34 points. And I guess that's that Ange Postecoglu effect. I know, or I read online or see online that there's a bit of mixed feelings about Ange. For me, outside looking in, he looks to be a good manager. I know you can talk about the quality of the leagues that he was in before, but whatever league you're in, it still takes something to be, a title winner and stuff like that. I was listening to Joe Hart interview on somewhere recently, and he talked about how, Postecoglu really transformed his thinking about the game and playing out from the back and stuff like that, and the influence he had. So he was quite, praised him quite highly. He looks like a good, exciting manager. I think obviously he's gone into the Spurs job. There's a lot of expectations on it, but if Spurs stick by him, if they get the right backing and stuff like that, because I don't think they made that many signings in the window, and I'll talk about their transfer window in a minute. But if they back him and do and give him time, that's the key thing, then I think they could finally break that hoodoo of winning a trophy or something. Because I think of Spurs in recent times, and I think of Pochettino's Spurs team. I remember them being unlucky in the Champions League final not to win it then. But Mourinho's obviously come in before since then, and they haven't had the best of luck. And everyone talks about Harry Kane, and the weight of the team and the expectation of Tottenham Hotspur was often a lot on his shoulders. But under Postecoglu, they've got a bit of an identity. They're not the Harry Kane team. Do you know what I mean? So before it was Tottenham Hotspur, that's Harry Kane's team. Give the ball to Kane, just watch Kane. Whereas now they have a good identity, and we'll go through like lineups or expected lineups and all the rest of it in a bit. But yeah, man, they look like an exciting team, and I think they'll do well this season. I've got a feeling they will win a cup this season as well. But yeah, so Postecoglu, obviously, he's got them picking up points from losing positions. And, we've now got to look at how we say switched on for 96 minutes, 97, 98 minutes, because it's those late minutes, Leicester. You look at, we're probably on the other side. I think we've probably maybe lost 13 or 14 points from winning positions. So, it kind of is all, if it wasn't already, it's kind of all leaning a bit more in the favour of Tottenham Hotspur. But it's going to be an interesting game. And I think, like we've shown at Brighton away, like we show at Southampton away, even for, parts or little spells at Man City away, we can put performances together. We can get something out of it. So I wouldn't put it past us to kind of come out with something. So in terms of their transfer window, they've obviously signed Solanke. He's now found a bit of form. Scored a couple of goals on the weekend. We saw what he was like last season. So, if he finds the form, you imagine he's going to carry on in that vein. Archie Gray, obviously we saw him, I remember against us at Ellen Road away when we got battered 4-0. He was brilliant that day. I'm sure it was that game. I don't think it was a home game. A young player, they spent a bit of money on him. Odebert, I think that's how you pronounce his name. The lad from, I think it was Burnley, player we were interested in. I think we did actually bid for him. Obviously chose Tottenham, but he's out injured at the moment. They signed a young Swedish midfielder. I think he's only like 18, 19 years old. Bergvall. I think his name's Bergvall. Apologies. I don't know if he's featured, but maybe he's one for the future. And then they signed a young Korean lad from, I can't remember the team, but he's from one of the Korean teams. He's going to join up with them in December. I think his name was Min Yok Yang, I think his name was. But he's meant to be a bit of a exciting prospect as well. So they've kind of made some signings that are for the future, but they haven't really strengthened and added a lot more to their team. Solanke, yes, good signing. Archie Gray isn't really someone that's coming in and competing on a first team. He's more for the future. Odebert, again, he's out injured, so I can't really comment on him. So it's only obviously Solanke that's really made a difference in their first 11 this season. But they seem to be doing well. They've obviously got players that they bought before that are finding a bit of vein of form. Players like Brennan Johnson. I'm a big Brennan Johnson fan. I remember him at Lincoln. Obviously, the connection with David Johnson, another one of my, a town player that I, love watching. But I remember he signed for Lincoln. I remember watching him go through the leagues, and he did really well. And then he obviously went to Forest, got promoted with them, and then got his move to Tottenham. He's a player I would love to see at Town in the future. He's obviously found a bit of form. I think it was the cup game against Cov, which I'll talk about in a minute anyway, but I think it was then when he kind of started scoring again. So obviously they've got players that have come into a bit of form. They've got obviously is it Pedro Porro, I think the fullback, he's really good. They've got that I've forgotten his name, Vander something. Not Van der Vaart, he played for them years ago. Kuleski, I think his name is. He's found a bit of form lately. They also got James Maddison, used to play for the Scum. All these players are kind of finding a bit of form and they're all chipping in with goals. So when we look at Tottenham and we say, okay, who's their man to watch or whatever and all the rest of it, I haven't even mentioned Son. That's how mad it is. Because pre-Postecoglu, you looked at Tottenham and it was just mark Harry Kane or keep him busy, keep Son busy, and you'll keep Tottenham busy. And it's not because the talent wasn't there. It was just because the game plan was give the ball to these guys. Now, any one of them can really hurt you, which is, I guess a testament again to Postecoglu. So Spurs have been playing a 4-3-3 this season in the Premier League. It's pretty fixed in terms of their lineup with their back and their front three. The midfielders seemed a bit interchangeable at times. So to be honest, I would be expecting the lineup to be the same as the Villa game. So although I'd probably say, Basuma and Maddison would probably come in, they're probably the stronger players. I just think they've obviously got the Europa League on Thursday or today, depending on when you're watching this. And I'd imagine that, Ange Postecoglu would want to put out a strong team. I think they've got a 100% record in the Europa League so far. And like I said, I think they will break that hoodoo about getting a cup this season. Why not the European Cup? I mean, it's not the European Cup, but why not the Europa Cup or whatever? But yeah, so I think Maddison and Bassoon will probably start those games, which would mean it would be the same lineup that he had against Villa. So for us, I think the team will kind of pick itself, obviously, with the quality of players that we have, and then also suspensions and injuries. So with, again, 4-2-3-1, Muric in goal, left back Leif Davis, and then Cam Burgess and O'Shea. Right back Ben Johnson, who was my man of the match last week. Midfield, probably, I think Massimo might be available, but I think it'll be Kayuste and Sammy. And then the front three behind the striker, I think it'd be the same. So Schmodix on the left, Chaplin in the middle, and Amari out wide, with Delap up top. Although you could make an argument to bring Burns in. I know he's had his critics, which I don't agree with. I don't like people getting on people's backs. The fact the man's had to delete his Instagram and all the rest of it is dumb. So you lot that are atting him and all the rest of it, you lot need to hang your heads in shame, really. But yeah, I think Burns' defensive game is really good. So you talk about tracking back and then getting forward, and who knows, man, get an assist against Spurs, it could be the confidence boost that he needs. But yeah, I think that'll be the lineup. So before we get to score predictions, I want to bring a new part called Ref Watch. So the referee, the man in the middle on Sunday, is Darren England. Darren England, he has refed 6 Ipswich games and 5 Tottenham Hotspur games. Those 6 Ipswich games have been 4 losses and 2 wins, all in the Championship. Last game he refed was our 2-1 away win at Watford last season. For Spurs, he's refed them 5 games, 2 in the Prem, 2 in the League Cup, and 1 in the FA Cup. 4 of those 5 games have resulted in Spurs winning. The one they didn't win was an FA Cup loss in 2022 to Borough, which I think they lost after extra time. And the last time he refed them was their League Cup win earlier on in the season away at Coventry. So he's refed us about the same amount of games. Doesn't really seem to any bias. Or is there? In September 2023, Darren England was the VAR official for the Premier League game between Tottenham Hotspurs and Liverpool. During that game, Luis Diaz scored a goal which was then ruled offside by VAR. Upon review, VAR realised it was an error. The operator said it's an error. Darren England decided to stick with the judgment. You can read the whole transcript online. It's on. There's an article online or whatever. You can read it from there. The PGMOL then come out and said it was significant human error and apologised profusely. Profusely, is that the word? To Liverpool and the Premier League or whatever from there. Darren England was then banned from participating as a match official for any Liverpool game for the remainder of that season. So we don't know why, and I'm still not sure to this day. It's not been clarified as why Darren England disallowed a clear onside goal, but he did, and Tottenham Hotspur benefited during that game. So Darren England is going to be the man in the middle, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens should that occasion arise again. As you know, I'm not convinced with the level of refereeing this season. I talked about it on my match review about the fact that what PGMOL had pitched and what's happening are 2 different things, and that Ashton had contacted Howard Webb. I believe Howard Webb is going to be at Portman Road. Well, he probably would have met with Ashton at Portman Road by the time this video comes out. It's just crap. The levels of refereeing is just toilet, really. I read somewhere that, and I think this is true, I'm going to do a proper video, maybe over international break, about the referees and stuff. But I did read somewhere where it said the criteria to referee in the Premier League is to referee 5 11-a-side games. Obviously official games, so do it at Sunday League or whatever. As long as you referee 5 games, and go on a training course. So if you're, into fitness, you want to do a bit of running and all the rest of it, you can be a Premier League referee earning 80 to £100,000 a year, plus 3, 4, 5, 6 grand a game, plus all the, the tournaments away in Abu Dhabi and stuff like that, where you might be ending 20, 30, 40 grand a game. So I can see why people get into refereeing, but let's be real, what are they doing? But anyway, we'll talk about that another day. That's for another video. So in terms of score predictions, then I'm always going to back us, and I just feel it's clicking. There's been so many positive signs over the last couple of weeks. Everton and West Ham game, put that in isolation. I think we're turning a corner, and that win is close. But it's going to be a massive feat to try and get a win against Tottenham Hotspur at their stadium. Like I said, Postecoglu, for me, he's probably one of the most underrated managers in the Premier League. But I think he's got Tottenham playing a really nice brand of football. They've got a real identity about themselves. And even if we do go ahead, they've shown time and time again that they can claw points back. So for me, I'm going to go for a score draw. I'm going for a Desmond 2-2. So there you go, just my thoughts on the preview between the two games and how I see Tottenham and obviously how I see us and how we've been. If you're a Spurs fan, let me know what you think. Have I got it right? Am I completely wrong about you guys, or am I pretty on the money there? And obviously, if you're a Spurs fan, if you've seen this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And everyone, again, if you haven't already, smash the likes, hit the subscribes, and turn the notifications on. And I will catch you all at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday. Catch you later, peeps.